lining them up with the mortise, just like so, and just gently driving them in. There we go. Now, if you've got keen ears, you might have heard that last hit had a slightly different tone, and that's a great indication that we've driven that the whole way. So, there is a bit of a trick to this. If you have a look at our tenons, you'll notice there is a slight taper here. That's important because these should ideally be made a little bit too larger for those mortises. So when we drive these in, those fibers in the end are going to mash together a bit. So we call that a mash fit. That does have a downside because that will also generate pressure inside that hub, which means what we don't want to do is go around driving one spoke in after another because that pressure can start to build up and cause issues. Worst case scenario, you might drive the spokes one after another, get halfway around, and that pressure builds up so much that it just splits your hub wide open. That's definitely not much fun if you've just spent the last 5 years waiting for the thing to dry. So what we do to avoid this is just simply skip every second mortise like you see here, and once we've done that, we then drive in the spokes that we missed, and that helps to prevent that from happening. So we'll turn this on. We lock our spoke in, keeping it nice and straight. And these blades come in, cutting our turn just like so. I'll do one more. And there you go. We've got two identical tags. So there you go. Thanks for those features. Our tags are nice and identical, or should be, and that allows us our wheel to be put together nice and neatly. Our machine is a lot faster. Alright folks, now for our rims there are two designs we can choose from. The first one we'll talk about today is a bit fancier, and we call this a half rim. The strength of one of these half rims is that the grain of the wood is curving with that entire piece. So that makes it really strong, and it's perfect for light thin wheels like you might use on a buggy. To achieve this is quite interesting because you need to start out with a nice straight piece of wood. You'll place it in the steam boxes by the boiler over there, where you'll heat it up with steam until you get it to a point where you can bend it. Now, there is a downside with this, and that is this process will take a bit of time. The rule of thumb is that for every inch in thickness is roughly an hour of steaming required. So a piece this size will likely have to steam for between 2 to 4 hours. Now, it's not too bad, it's a little bit of waiting around, but it will make this more expensive because, of course, time is money after all. So, luckily for us, there is another method which is use something we call a felly or a fellow. And these are much easier to use because all you do is grab a piece of wood, grab a template for the size wheel you're making, draw that shape out, and then quickly cut that shape out with a bandsaw. And in no time at all, you have your felly shape like this. Now what you need to do is sit that where you want it to end up, just like so. That's not it. Sorry, I'll just do this back. There you go. Sit it where you want it to, like so. Make a mark where those two spokes line up, and take this over to a felly drill hiding in the corner there, where you can drill a mark on those holes you just made. So that leaves you with your finished felly. Now all you have to do is fit it to your wheel. And it doesn't fit. Now luckily that isn't because we made a mistake, it's just the way the angles of our spokes are working. See, all our spokes radiate away from the centre of our wheel, or in layman's terms, they're just spread apart from one another. So that means, where we took those measurements before, where our felly needs to end up, are always going to be slightly closer together than where we need to initially fit our felly further back here. So, to fix this, all we need to do is push these two spokes closer together. To do this, you could do it by hand, that's a lot of effort, so we often like to prefer to use what we call a spoke dog. Now the way this works is you want to grab your spokes like so, and this is going to use something we call leverage to make that job much easier. So we'll line one of these up, bring it in, and there we go. Once it's on that far, it's just a matter of knocking it on the rest of the way. Continue doing this all the way around the outside of your spider until you're left with a wheel that resembles something like this. Now at this point you could put this on a vehicle and go for a drive, but you might not get far because all of the wood is unprotected. So you want to protect that with a tyre. For your tyres, you're going to need some steel. If you can believe it, this here is the thickness of steel used on all our working class wheels here at Sovereign Hill. So not these ornamental ones, but the ones on the coaches going around town, or the ones we make for customers behind you in the coach manufacturing. Once you have that steel, the next obvious thing you need